Welcome back to ENZA's video series To Net Zero with. I'm Martina Bassan and I'm joined today by three ENZA's members, three women. I'm very glad, I'm very proud to have three women, a whole panel of women today with me. Let me introduce Alexandra Tudoroiu-Lacavice, who is Head of Policy at COGEN Europe, Irene Di Padua, Policy Director at Bioenergy Europe, and Malgosia Rybak, Climate Change and Energy Director at Cepi. Thanks for joining us today. Today, we're going to talk about how to combine high potential for industry decarbonization and cost efficiency, but also competitiveness. What are the instruments at our disposal to achieve what we could call a real Green Deal for EU industries? Let me start with the first question for Alexandra. Alexandra, how does cogeneration support European industry on their decarbonization path?
Industry competitiveness really depends on industry having access to continuous, affordable, secure, clean energy. Especially today, as Europe embarks in an ambitious decarbonization pathway, and with the energy crisis, that quite serious energy crisis that we're in, it's very important that we stop wasting energy. So energy efficiency is key. Not only for our whole energy system, but also for industry to stay competitive, reduce their carbon, reduce their energy costs. So cogeneration is one of the technologies that can improve and boost the energy efficiency of industry. It is the technology of choice, or one of the technologies of choice in many industries, from the chemical sector to pulp and paper, to the hospitality sector, as well as food and drink industries as well. It already delivers today a lot of energy savings. It's about 15 BCM of energy that is saved today by industry which uses CHP. About 60 gigawatts of CHP are installed today in industry to actually self-produce process heat and electricity. So those industrial users already benefit from lower energy costs and lower emissions, as well as higher integration of renewable energy. They are using increasingly renewable fuels like biomass, renewable gases, hydrogen. And this is a benefit of using those very valuable fuels as efficiently as possible. So what we see in the future with cogeneration is that it will remain an important technology, mostly combined with other clean energy solutions. So more and more, as we electrify some of the process heat, it will be important to also have cogeneration to produce electricity, for industrial users to have both self-production of heat and electricity at the same time. And also it will help a lot with the integration of renewable energy sources. So we see it as a win-win for industry, but also for the whole energy system. There are already quite innovative projects with industrial CHP. We have one example from France, Smurfit Kappa, a paper mill that is using hydrogen from excess PV and wind in a CHP. So that's a very nice way of converting to renewable hydrogen. In the city of Brescia, a steel-making company is actually recovering exhaust gases and using it in a CHP to deliver the heat and electricity for the district heating. So there's a lot of innovation with CHP in industry these days.
Innovation and win-win solution is something that is coming often when we talk about system integration, and it's very interesting that you also bring in some concrete examples of that. I think that it's easier also for our viewers to visualize how things work in an integrated system. Irene, so thank you for your input on that. Irene, I would like to ask you also a question. Would you say that modern bioenergy is a key solution to achieve the decarbonization of the industrial processes?
Absolutely. So thanks for the question, Martina. Indeed, if we look at industrial decarbonization, bioenergy and modern bioenergy in particular is an essential tool for the energy transition. And this is particularly true and relevant for energy-intensive industries where bioenergy is currently one of the few available options. Because if we look at the type of processes that these industries need to reach, we're talking of high temperature and pressure, and modern bioenergy can easily reach 500 degrees Celsius or 160 bar pressure. So this is the ideal condition for these industrial processes. On top of this, biomass is also a flexible solution, so it can adapt to the needs of the industrial needs, depending also on the type of industry and the type of temperature, as I mentioned before. And through some technologies that can improve the feedstock, such as torrefaction or steam explosion, it can reach also high efficiency cogeneration. And so this gives also some conditions which are comparable, if not better, than use of fossil fuels. If we look at EU industry demand for it, right now bioenergy covers around 10% of this, and we do see an additional potential for that, especially because bioenergy is using renewable feedstock, and what it's not using is high-quality material that can go to other sectors, such as the pulp and paper industry, but it's using residues, which also brings circularity and bring us towards carbon neutrality in the longer term. And going even farther, because here we're talking about carbon neutrality and renewables, we do have also new technologies that can achieve even negative emissions. So for instance, we have bioenergy with carbon capture and storage, so-called BECCS. And these together with biochar are different ways of achieving these negative emissions, so even going beyond net zero in a way. And also this can be used in other sectors such as agriculture or other applications. Last but not least, I think it's also a very important point, the fact that bioenergy is not only a solution to get rid of fossil fuels and get moving forward in the energy transition for industry, but is also a homegrown European industry. So if we look at Europe, we have more than 5,000 businesses which are based in Europe, and if we look at equipment suppliers, almost 74% of bioenergy ones are based in the EU, making bioenergy really a European solution.
Thank you. So these solutions are really local but also European at the same time, and this is an important point. We are talking about something that can be used locally, but that in the end belongs to all Europeans. Malgosia, what about the paper and pulp sector? What are the key technologies that could be deployed in this sector's decarbonization path?
Well, it's cogeneration, it's bioenergy, so this is why we're here. But to put things into perspective, I think that's important to see where we're coming from, because our sector is much more just than manufacturing. And if we look at across the board, almost 60% of our capacity is already committed to science-based targets or committed to having net zero roadmaps in place. So that shows real commitment to the target of reaching carbon neutrality by 2050. And why cogeneration and bioenergy plays such a big role in decarbonization of our industry is because we have a big problem with decarbonization of heat. 70% of our energy consumption goes into heat generation. And when we look at what is the landscape right now in the industry, cogeneration is widely spread. It's because it allows us to produce both electricity and heat in a very highly efficient manner. And at the same time, we are also using bioenergy. 60% of our consumption comes from renewables, which makes us one of the biggest industrial consumers, but also producers of renewable energy in Europe. And that's the picture right now, and we're not stopping there. What is important is that proportionally to our size, we're still investing in improving energy efficiency and switching to renewable energy, even producing more renewable energy on site. So what we see based on the current studies and assessments that we've done with consultants, there is further potential to produce more renewable energy on site. We're talking about 31 terawatt hours that would correspond to 30% of our electricity production right now. I mean, before the war in Ukraine. And coming from improving the energy efficiency with cogeneration, but also with further electrifying the processes in certain cases. We also see that integrating further our industry and district heating networks is one of the way to decrease emissions at the system level, and also integrating us with the energy system, with being able to produce electricity and sell it to the grid is another way when we provide more efficiency to the entire system. And then when we look at what we can bring on top to help decarbonize other sectors, is for instance biogas production on site. And here it could be used in the transport sector. And one of the technologies that Irene mentioned, so BECCS, it's something that we're also looking at next to other very process-specific breakthrough technologies. So when we talk about paper making without water or paper making without evaporation, this is something that we're already discussing right now. And these technologies, once we get the funding in place, have a future and role in decarbonizing the industry.
So we can do more. There's still room, there's still space for...
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes, and honestly, this journey is inspiring as much as is tiring. I think that it really requires our work at the European level and policies, but it does require also work on the ground with people in the industrial sites and people that are producing technologies, that are providing solutions, and there's a lot to be done.
So would you have this is the occasion, would you have a specific request or call to European policymakers to, implement?
I think in this context, there are two. So one is something that we tirelessly explain to the policymakers. Access to affordable fossil-free energy is key to accelerate decarbonization of industry. So no matter the circumstances, we need to have that in place. And now that we're going through the energy crisis, it is so important to have access to affordable energy because we need to stay competitive. While we're seeing different developments around the world, making sure that we can not lose the competitive edge that we have in the global market is key.
Defend competitiveness. European industries. Maybe you would like to add something also on that point.
Well, I would echo what Malgosia said. I think we have clearly on one side heat decarbonization, which is for sure a key issue if we want to achieve a sustainable energy transition and to make this also in a fair way, not to leave anyone behind, so giving affordable or even on top of renewable solutions. And the second part is indeed on the finance and the support also for renewables, and especially in industry decarbonization. We do need to consider the issues at stake and the fact that we need to promote efficient and renewable solutions. And that's why we need financing to support industries to achieve climate neutrality by 2050.
Alexandra?
Yes, so what I can add to the already very good contributions is that indeed we must not be chasing silver bullets, which is what happens quite a lot recurrently. We really need this multi-technology approach. So we need more bioenergy, more BECCS, more cogeneration, and all these solutions need to be scaled up quite rapidly at the same time so that we don't lose that momentum. And yeah, I agree that these Europe-based manufacturing bases can really be boosted by just pushing for all technologies. And then finally also system integration. So aiming to deploy as much renewable energy as possible through the heating sector, through electricity, but also in the gas sector. That could be one idea to make the transition more cost-effective and more resilient, I would say.
Yes, and if I may build on this, because the pulp and paper sector is a perfect example of what Alexander was just explaining right now, because at the end of the day, we will need all different decarbonization technologies. What we're looking at is production sites from Portugal to Finland, from France to Poland. And depending on your circumstances, different technologies are going to be more cost effective. And this is why we need to have a variety of them available and affordable.
Scale up available technologies and support system integration. This is indeed the objective, the purpose of the Alliance, of Net Zero Alliance. Thank you for this super interesting conversation today. I really enjoyed it, and I'm sure our viewers as well enjoy it. So thanks again for joining us today. Please do not hesitate to have a look to our website, netzeroalliance.eu, of course also at our LinkedIn page for many other examples of interesting projects going on. Thank you for watching us, and please do tune in again.